So today's assignment is going to be a assessment on our entire quest. So in this quest, we were exploring how a forest fire can impact the different spheres of the Earth. So our learning target is that you can write a short report on my findings and on how a forest fire impacts the Earth's spheres. So to access this assessment, you'll go into your Clever app and then log into Savas, and you'll find the name of the assignment. It's called Quest Findings Reflection on Forest Fire. You don't submit anything to Schoology, you just turn it in to Savas. So this assignment looks like this. It starts by saying, first of all understanding that this is a assessment, so you want to do the best job you can on it, so it's counted as a summative grade. It's probably a good idea before you start this assignment to go back and look at the other Quest check-in assignments that we did to kind of review what you wrote, what you learned. And so this is going to be a time for you to be able to share what you learned about the different impacts that a forest fire can have on all the different spheres of the Earth. So it says, complete your quest. The forest fire has cleared much of the forest, and it's time to present your report to the town residents. This report should consider both the long-term and the short-term effects on the hydrosphere, the atmosphere, the geosphere, and the biosphere. So this could be kind of a sample town, and you're going to be describing, there's a forest fire right here. You can see there's smoke, there's a river, right? There's buildings, there's trees. You're going to be describing how this town could be impacted. So in this quest, you've explored how forest fires affect the atmosphere, the biosphere, the geosphere, and hydrosphere. You've learned how the spheres are connected by examining how fires start and progress, as well as which spheres will be most affected. Now it's time to consider what is most important to report back to the town officials to educate the public. To reflect on your work, answer the following questions. So in this assignment, we're going to be reflecting on what we learned about how a fire can impact a town potentially. So on the next slide, the first two questions that you're going to answer, the first one says, what are the immediate short-term problems associated with each sphere that the residents need to be aware of? So to do this assignment, I would make sure to write down each of the spheres of the Earth so that you remember to talk about what are some of the short-term immediate problems that would happen if a forest fire were to occur in this town. Okay, so atmosphere, biosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, and cryosphere. So you want to be writing about how a fire would impact these spheres of the Earth on a short-term basis. So what would happen immediately to these places? For question 2, it says, what are some of the long-term problems associated with the fire that residents need to be aware of? How could these influence the town and its residents in the future? So I would do the same thing, except this time you'd be talking about some of the long-term impacts for each of the spheres of the Earth. So how would it affect the atmosphere on a long term? How would it affect the biosphere on a long-term basis? What about the hydrosphere? How could it impact a river or a lake for a long period of time? What about the surface of the Earth, the geosphere and the cryosphere? So long-term effects take place over a longer period of time, so over months and years rather than days and weeks. On the next slide, it says, lightning started the fire, but as we learn, forest fires can also be started by campfires. How will your understanding of forest fires reflect on your future campfire safety? So now that we've learned a lot about how a fire impacts the different spheres, I want you to write about what you've learned about trying to be able to prevent a forest fire. How could you manage a campfire safely? And that's what you'd write in this box. This page is where you're going to write your report. So what you want to do is you want to read the report here, and then you're going to fill in the missing information. So it says initial observations, tree scarring, charred trees, charred areas of open brush, absence of wildlife, fallen trees, limited visibility, decreased sunlight, absence of vegetation, and dead aquatic life, poor air quality. So these are the observations that we've observed of how a forest fire could impact the area. So it says each of the blank of the forest will be affected by the fire. So you need to choose the option that would make the most sense. As we approached one of the lakes of the blank, we noticed increased blank due to ash and fallen debris clogging the river leading to the lake. We also experienced concern about decreased air quality in the forest blank was noticeably void of squirrels, deer, birds, or other wildlife. Blank impacts include the regrowth of the forest. Blank impacts may include a temporary increase in air quality. We've concluded that blank discharged from the blank likely started the fire. So when you're finished with that, you can check your answers and you can go to the last slide. And this is just a reflection on how did you view your work in this quest. So you'll submit this assignment to Schoology. This will be part of your assessment for this unit. And you actually submit it to Savas. So I said you don't submit it to Schoology because this will actually be turned into Savas. If you have any questions, send your science teacher a question in Schoology. Have a good day.